We are going to do a show today on the Mills Trophy Race, and I am going to have the people here introduce themselves. Well, I'll just let them. We'll start with that.
Okay. My name's Ron Soka. I'm the general chairman of the 2023 Mills Trophy Race.
Okay.
And I am Kaye Soka, able assistant on the Mills Trophy Race, and take care of various shoreside activities.
And I'm Phil Fry. I'm the Commodore of the Jolly Roger Sailing Club.
Yes, we're having Phil join us today, and he just happened to be available. He has been in the Mills race himself, so maybe we'll actually get Mills Trophy Race. I'm sorry. I'll have to use the complete name here. But tell us a little bit about Soka's. Tell us a little bit about, yourselves, like what kind of boat you've sailed in the past, how many times, just some general things about you.
Well, we started sailing in 1970 and bought our first interlake. And the person who we bought that boat from said that if you don't know very much about sailing, you ought to go talk to the people at Jolly Roger, because they'll get you started and teach you what you need to know. And so I came to a meeting in March or so of 1970 and met Bob Pearson, and he sort of took us under his wing and got us started in sailing and racing sailing that year. So, and we've been sailing interlakes ever since. So last year was our 52nd ILYA Bay Week in the Interlake, and then for the Mills race, we got a bigger boat in about the end of 1986, and we tried to keep it on the river, but Jolly Roger, the boat was 32 feet, and Jolly Roger had a 30-foot limit because of the way the property came together. So we ended up putting the boat down at Lost Point Peninsula, and the water levels up and down there. There were times we went out and couldn't get back in, or we were in and couldn't get out. And so after a season of sailing there, we took the boat down and joined Toledo Yacht Club. So that was in 1987, and we've been members there ever since. And we got involved with the Mills Committee at that point in 1987, and we've been involved with it ever since. And since 1998, I guess we've been general chairman of the Mills race. And during that time, we raced in the Mills, so we're both Mills masters, having raced 25 or more Mills races, and we've been general chairman since '98, so that's coming up on 20.
Now, Kaye, did you race with him?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Those guys would still be out in the lake if.
I hear that a lot from the women. we did do a show on women in sailing where we had some of the women in here, and I wish I would have knew you then I probably would have had you in, but because we see a lot of men out, but not as many women. What do you think about that? Why don't we have more women out sailing?
I don't know. In the Interlake group, we had a lot of women.
Okay.
Always. So I've never even given it much thought, but yeah, I was always on our boat sailing the Mills.
What was your job?
Navigator. That's why.
Okay.
That's why they got in.
Now navigation, back when you started, of course, we didn't have the GPS. How did you navigate back then?
Loran back.
Yeah, we had Loran.
Tell me about Loran, because I've never seen it. Is it like a radar? How did that work? Because I still see people talk about it.
Yeah, it was the precursor of GPS. If you think about it, GPS is a satellite-oriented system, and so it does triangulation, which from the various satellites, and that's how you get your position. And Loran was a similar concept to that, but it was land.
It's terrestrial.
Yeah, it was land-based. So your signals were typically aviation type
okay.
that
Never knew that.
on land
Were they-
signals.
Towers like cell towers?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And so, but back then they didn't use latitude and longitude. They used
TDs, time differences.
time differences. So they
Ooh.
calculated the time difference from the tower to you and back, and that's how they could position you. So
Would have been
you're,
fractions of a second. Though.
yeah, yeah. And so then you had to, on your charts, they had time difference
Lines.
basically, and so that's how, rather than latitude and longitude.
So it involved a lot more navigational skill, would you say, than using the GPS? I mean, GPS, let's face it, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, you have to do a little calculating.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was your job.
Yes.
Now,
Okay.
when you get into the history of the race, because we're going back over 100 years now, well over 100 years,
Right.
you're going to be talking about sextants, and that's the early navigation was sextants to get around the course, correct?
Well, probably more just time, speed, distance.
Okay,
Yeah.
time, speed, distance. So dead reckoning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, since you mentioned that, well, tell us a little bit about the history of the Mills Trophy race, because I'll be honest, I don't know much about it.
In the early 1900s, the Toledo Yacht Club building was a wooden structure sitting out in the middle of Point Place, which was the middle of nowhere at that time. And they had a fire, and the building burned down.
Oh,
And Commodore Mills, who was he was from Detroit. He was not a member of Toledo Yacht Club, but he knew how dispirited that made the members to lose their clubhouse. And so he donated to them the trophy called the Mills Trophy, which is a sterling silver punch bowl. And at the time, it had the cups and the whole bit. We have some of those cups now. We obviously have the punch bowl. And he said, you guys need to have a race. I mean, they didn't even have a clubhouse at that point because it had burned down. And so they had a race, and the first race was 4 boats. Of course, then it was all sail, it was all wood. That race was 292 miles.
oh my word.
So it was considerably more. And from there, the race grew and occurred most every year other than during the war and a few other lapses in time. But this year, of course, we didn't have one in 20 because of the COVID.
Yeah.
And then, so this year will be the 99th running of the race. And next year, the 100th.
Now, will there be anything special planned for the 100th year?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they've started a Century Club, sort of a promotional way to get people in, just familiar with the fact that it's going to be the 100th. And so there'll be more and more of that coming out. And we've gotten sponsors that have been involved over time that are really interested in being involved at the 100th, for the 100th.
I imagine.
That's a pretty big milestone.
What would that be the longest running race on Lake Erie or no?
Oh, on Lake
Maybe
Erie.
on, probably Lake
Lake
Erie.
Erie.
Yeah.
The Bayview Mackinac race will also be holding their 100th.
Yeah, the same.
Yes,
Next year
because
is
they
their
did.
100th.
They didn't take a buy on the COVID year, so
Okay.
that made ours the same. And the Chicago Mackinac has already celebrated their 100th.
Okay. Now, I thought I read online, and this may have not have been accurate, that at one time this race was held during the day. Is that correct or no?
No,
I don't
no.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't believe
No,
so.
because
I mean,
the deed of gift for the Mills Trophy is that it be a test of navigational skills and that it be held in the night.
Okay. Well, I might have read about something else then. Okay. Because anybody I've asked said the same thing. So it sounds like that.
It starts during the daytime.
Maybe that's what I
Yeah,
read.
it normally starts in the evening. What the first
5 o'clock.
5
start.
o'clock is and there are several classes that go off in 10 to 15-minute increments, I think.
Well, it used to be we had 10-minute increments on the starting, and we had 15 to 17 classes. So that made it about a 3-hour launch
yeah.
window. And we've cut that back, and now it's the standard 5-minute starts.
Okay.
So the first start is at 5. The last start is just after 6. So
It's
pretty
very
compressed.
impressive. My crew, we try to go out early just because to see all those boats out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's extremely impressive. Because last year you had maybe 120, roughly.
Yeah,
Just over
100. Yeah,
100.
just 106 or.
But
8,
there have
something
been
like that.
years, I think, that I've participated that's been like 150 or close to it.
I think
It's
our
been a
maximum
while.
was 175.
That's quite a minute.
that we
Wow.
put.
It's extremely impressive. In fact, there are some people that just go out to watch the starts
see
that
why
are
that
not
would be.
participating in the race itself.
Yeah, I think maybe not last year, but the year before we had 4 70-foot boats down from Detroit.
Wow.
So you put 4 70-footers on the starting line at one time,
That's pretty cool.
along
Yeah.
with the rest of the boats in their
Yeah.
class. So you had everything from a 70-foot to a 24-foot Melges or something, a sport boat on the starting line, which is pretty unusual.
Now there's different lengths of races, right? Did I read? Is that right? And how do you determine like which grouping you fall into? Or,
Yeah, there are 3 courses.
I guess I should say course, not
Yeah,
length, I guess,
well, so the Mills course is the longest course. It's about 70 nautical miles. Then the governor's course is kind of an intermediate course. It's about 55 nautical miles, and the president's course is the smallest course. It's like 38 nautical miles, and the difference between those is determined by one, if you want to sail for the Mills Trophy, you have to sail on the Mills course, no matter what your rating is. But it's at for the governor's course, which is a little shorter. It's the same kind of rating as the longer course, the Mills, but some people just don't want to sail that length, so that cuts off a couple hours on the water. And then the president's course is for the smaller and slower rated perf boats, and also some specialty double-handed and cruising boats, jib and main, the jam boats.
Now, what do you race, Phil? Which course?
I race the short course.
Okay.
Because it's hard to keep my attention span going for those longer
I've been with
courses.
you, so I
Yeah,
do know.
you
that.
understand.
Yeah,
that.
I do know that. Plus, you can hit fewer things if you're out
True.
shorter periods, less buoys to hit, things like that. Any
Right.
marks, anyways. So you said you've had up to 170 boats.
Yeah, well, early on, probably more than that, a couple hundred, 225 boats or thereabouts.
Now, I notice in the name it says invitational. Do you have to have an invite to come, or how does that work? Can anybody sign up, or how does that work?
Theoretically, in the old days, literally, you got an invitation. You got something in the mail, and you had to fill it out and send it in. That's all been replaced with, like yacht scoring has a way for registration and scoring that we use as a package, but still you are notified. We have a database, and we send out an invitation to the racers from the prior years and other interested people, to participate in the mills, and then we open the registration system, and people sign up. So
Do you have to be either a member of a recognized yacht club or a U.S. sailing member to participate?
we say that.
We prefer that, but we're pretty liberal about that.
Yeah.
So if you want to
typically,
race,
though, yeah.
if you want to race the Mills race, you really should join Jolly Roger Sailing Club, 5961 Edgewater Drive, here in Toledo, Point Place.
There's nothing like a shameless promotion, is there?
That's
that's absolutely
that's
true.
what Commodores are elected to do.
I like you, Kay.
You know, this might be a good time. We maybe should backtrack a little
Go
bit
ahead.
for those who are listening who aren't familiar with the race. Back in the old days, the race started at out on the lake at the lighthouse, which would be the closest open lake place from Toledo Yacht Club, and then they would sail a triangle and come back to Toledo Yacht Club. But when in 1981 we converted to a destination race, and we start now at the lighthouse, same as always. But then the race goes over the three various courses and terminates at South Bass Island at Put-in Bay Harbor.
What precipitated the change? I mean, I'm just curious because that's a pretty big change.
Yeah. Well, the initial cause, let's say,
Kay
was,
just whispered it's a long story. But
yeah. Well, it's a short. I'll keep it short. In 1979, that race during what would be the typical start time was storm warnings and severe winds, and so boats were headed out to the race course, and the Coast Guard came and said that you can't run this race. You need to stop. And so all the boats that were already out there and had been out there for, a couple hours in anticipation of the start sailed back to wherever they came from. They went back to Detroit. They went back to Cleveland. So the Coast Guard, in an effort to be very safe, probably overstepped. But at any rate, they canceled the race. And
It
so
soured the sailors, needless to say.
the
It
sailors-
soured the board of trustees at the Toledo Yacht Club. And so everybody just sort of said, we're not gonna have the race. And
so they didn't have it in
they didn't have it
80,
in 70,
79,
79 or 80.
80. And then in 81, a kind of a separate group, but still yacht club members, went to the board and said, we need to reinitiate this. And the board basically said, if you decide to do that, you're on your own. I mean, it'll be held at Toledo Yacht Club, but the responsibility for the race all is on the Mills Race Committee.
Interesting.
So we had one of the members of that group agreed to underwrite because they didn't know what the financial circumstances were going to be, but he agreed to underwrite any expenses, any losses, and we also affiliated with the Storm Trysail Club, which is East Coast dominated club at the time, particularly, but it's organized as a fraternity of sailors who have sailed in open waters under storm trysail conditions. So your initiation into that group has to be that you were an open water sailor and been out in some major heavy sailing conditions. So they have that group, and they Storm Tri-Sails co-sponsors or sponsors, I don't know, half a dozen races: the Newport Bermuda race, the Halifax, I don't know where it starts, Block Island race. Those are the races, and they came in with this group from Toledo Yacht Club to sort of give it a base of support and to get the thing relaunched. And so that's how it restarted in '81.
That's interesting.
And they're still sponsors, correct?
They are.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. It's mostly a name
Right.
recognition.
Yeah. Anymore is just historically. They were there in the beginning as partners, and it was kind of like, we're in this together. So if we make money together, good. If we lose money together, not so good, but we're in it.
Now, the race has actually a whole week of activities. Is that pretty much? I don't know if it's a whole week, but tell us a little bit about what goes on leading up to the actual race, and then once you get to the bay, what happens, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Kay.
So the formal activities begin the Friday night prior to the race. And that is the evening that we have the Mills Masters party. And that party is open only to Mills Masters. And it is the evening that we introduce the new Mills Masters. And it's a very fun time because everybody who's there has been sailing the race at least 25 years. So you don't have to entertain them. They just have a good time. We have a little picnic. The committee basically puts on this event. It's just a very casual, fun kickoff event. Then on the Wednesday prior to the race, we have the awards banquet for the prior year. And that's the time where we actually present the trophies to the winners that have been engraved with their name from winning the prior year. And that's a dinner trophy presentation. Very nice affair, and one that people really look forward to each year. Then on Thursday night, the Toledo Yacht Club holds a party, an open to the public party that they take care of. The Mills Committee doesn't take care of that, but it's because of the Mills Committee, and that's when our competitors come and pick up their packets and any final registration that they need to do. And then on Friday is the race. And the race ends, depending on conditions, the faster boats might start coming in about midnight at Put-in-Bay, and usually are completely finished, around 6 o'clock in the morning. And they get a little shut-eye, maybe, go to the Frosty Bar for breakfast. And then on Saturday afternoon, we hold a party at the Put-in-Bay Yacht Club and in the afternoon. And then on Sunday morning, we present the award flags at the Put-in-Bay Yacht Club. And then everyone.
The award flag to who won, or what does that mean?
To the winners, yes, to the winners.
To each class?
Each
Okay.
class, overall, first, second, and third places. Right.
So now the party on Saturday, is that open to anybody or only participants in the race?
It's open to participants of the race, yes, and their
their crew?
entourage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So it sounds like it's pretty much a whole week almost of activities, it sounds like, huh?
Yeah. All elapsed days for sure.
Any suggestions you would have for somebody that says, I think I'd like to try that race? For a first timer, what would you suggest?
I think the easiest, we have a couple of options there. One is there's a cruising class, which is it's designed for first timers, could be, or boats that aren't really racing boats. you're likely to see, Bimini's covers,
That's my kind of boat right
yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. So that's an opportunity to get involved. It's on the short course, the 38-mile course. Jam for the boats that we have, some pretty sophisticated racing boats that like to sail jam because it's shorter and you can do it with a few less crew if you need to, or if you've got family, that likes to come in and sail. So
Just for a definition, jam means jib and main, so you don't have the big spinnaker like some of the other racing boats have.
yes.
So that's what, for example, my boat doesn't even have a spinnaker, so I always race in jam, and it's still competitive. Don't get me wrong; it's a very competitive class. But it, as Ron was saying, you need normally less crew, easier to handle, less sail changes, or actually no sail changes.
So that'd be a good starting point to see if you like it and to experience a night race, which is new to a lot of people. We get about 10% new
Every year?
sailors every year.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Now, do they have to, if they race in the cruising class, do they still have to have their sails measured and all that stuff? Or how does that work if you decide you're going to be in the cruising class? Like if I decide I wanted to put my Cat 27, which I'm not going to, in that race, what would I have to do?
There are a couple things you could do. If you just want to register and race, the Mills Race Committee will assign you a rating.
Okay.
If you want to be a little more formal than that, you would go to one of the local rating, like Perf Lake Erie,
Okay.
and then there's a local measurer, somebody at North Cape or Monroe or Toledo, that will do just what you said. They'll measure sails primarily, and then I think the rest of the measurements for that are manufacturer provided.
And it's a very reasonable cost to get a perf certificate. I think it's $35 a year, and if you're going to race even in 2 or 3 different regattas, and there are other regattas obviously that you can race in as a casual racer, it's worth getting a perf certificate.
If my wife's listening, no, I'm not thinking about doing that unless I can catch a ride. I'm not doing that because I've never even had my boat out at night. So
Well, that's the other option, is to get a crew position on one of the boats. And then that would give you a feel for whether or not you could attack it with your own.
Yeah, the
Vessel.
first couple mills I did was not on my boat. I was crewing on someone else's boat.
okay. So if anybody's interested, most of the time there's people looking for crew. So ask around if it's something you might want to do. Let me ask you this question: what is the longest official finishing time that you know of that you've had? And Kay is smiling, so something is coming to mind. Is it somebody who still hasn't finished, or
They're still out there.
they're still out there
Well,
frozen in time? Or
I remember one year when Jack Bernard finished at 4 in the afternoon,
oh,
Yeah, the party was over.
but Jack never
He never quit.
dropped out.
Never dropped out of a race. And
That's
he
good.
He was one of those. I don't know if he was a 50-year. I think
he was.
I think he was a 50-year Mills.
oh my word, that is
Sailing.
amazing.
So, and the other 50-year local 50-year sail is John
John Greiner.
Greiner.
John Greiner's coming in later today.
Yeah, he's. I think he's no longer racing, but he was over 50. He might have won the Mills.
He won the Mills in 2014, I
I
believe.
think, yeah, which was his first time in all those years that he won the Mills race.
It's
But
interesting.
he's, gotten class flags and, he was a veteran sailor.
The latest that I recall we finished was 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so it's an eye-opening thing to be sailing at dawn when the sun's coming up.
So actually, it's I like that a lot.
Yeah, so-
My
so did
favorite
we.
mills, actually, I was crewing with someone, and dawn was coming up when we were between, we were probably east of South Bass Island, and we were swapping position with another J-29, and we both had kites up. And so we would steal the wind, go in front of somebody else, then they would steal our wind, and it was some of the best sailing that I've ever done, and that was during the mills. And it's really kind of magical to be out there when the sun's coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to one of our sailing competitors in our class was a boat that rated a few seconds faster than us, so they would owe us time, and they knew that when the sun came up in the morning, if they could see us, they were in trouble because we were close enough to on a rating
you would
basis.
beat them.
We would beat them. Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, is there anything else you guys would want to add? I mean, I
Well,
appreciate
I
you
would
coming in. Go ahead.
suggest anybody who is interested in the Mills Trophy race, and it will be on June the 9th, Friday, June the 9th, 2023. And we would love to have you. And check out our website. Just enter Mills Trophy Race in your search engine, and our website will pop up. And then we use an application called Yacht Scoring for registration and all of our information is in terms of the notice of race and the sailing instructions. And you can see who all has registered and in what classes and so forth. So you can just look that up on Yacht Scoring as time grows nearer. That isn't open yet for the Mills race, but it will be shortly. Also, if you want to be on the mailing list, go to the website, and there's a place there that you can subscribe to be on our mailing list, and you'll receive whatever emails we send out about our various activities, when the registration opens, any other important news that's going on.
I would say don't be scared away. I mean, it seems very daunting at first when you think about, I don't race a lot. Now I got to register my boat, and how do I do this, and et cetera, et cetera. The Mills Trophy Race Committee, they do an outstanding job every single year, from start to finish. It is one of the best run events that I've ever been to. I look forward to it every year. It's really unique. And the other thing that we haven't talked about, and that's safety. And they are very safety-minded. There's a list of things that you need to have your boat and your crew prepared for, because it is different. You are sailing at night, but these people do an outstanding job, and it'll be something that you'll remember forever if you love to sail, is doing a Mills Trophy race.
Anything else from you?
I don't know. We've covered a whole lot there. I would
I
say
appreciate you.
this is the 99th.
Well,
so
the other thing is that I mentioned that we have the awards and give out the trophies. I would venture that we have one of the finest collections of trophies you will ever see, and to have your name engraved on one of those plaques is quite an honor.
Right. The Mills Trophy itself is vintage 1907. The President's Trophy, President Taft, that's 1909. And the Governor's Trophy is Governor Harmon, and that's also 1909. And so we have deeds of gift from the President of the United States, the Governor of Ohio at that time, and Merrill B. Mills, the namesake for the Invitational Mills Trophy race.
And then there are about 40 other trophies that we give for class and various other things, first to finish, best first time mills, the jib and main,
Double-handed.
double-handed, multi-hull. So it's quite a collection, and if you're ever in the area, come to the Toledo Yacht Club, and someone will be glad to show you our trophies.
And I tell you what, it's very impressive to go up and look at the trophies up there. So I've had the opportunity to go up there a couple of times, and actually I think we went to some kind of a reception even in there one time. Somebody had isn't it in the trophy room? Sometimes they have for the smaller room. Yeah. Yeah, it was very impressive. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming out, and if anybody's looking for something, a little bit of a challenge, maybe you would be interested in doing the Mills race this summer. I'm glad Phil kind of gave us, not to be scared off by it. But I think probably in personal, I think if you've never sailed at night, though, you might want to start by going out with someone else. But maybe not. If you're an adventurer, I consider myself an adventurer, but I haven't done the night stuff yet. But I'm hoping this summer I can venture out at night once or twice. So thanks for coming, and I guess we're done. Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for coming out. That was awesome.